Let's wait for 1 more minute and we'll start. Yeah, I think it should be enough. So, good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Alien Technologies for today's webinar. This is the second webinar we will be conducting. And as you, uh, as for our today webinar, it will be focusing on how the rendering paradigms will be affecting modern web development landscape. So you might have know this that compared to how it was before, the web development has become very complex, and uh, reason for that is that we are implementing previously desktop-based piece of softwares into web application. So with that, the complexity and how we develop it getting changed every day, and so this rendering paradigm plays a major role on how we develop this web application. And that is why we are focusing this webinar on rendering paradigms. So before going on to explaining what is rendering and how it is working, I will first give a rough idea for those who are not much familiar with how the websites are working, to give a rough baseline. So let me switch to the view. So this is a simple site. Uh, as you can see, there's nothing much, but uh, this will be enough for introducing how the websites are working. And normally when you go to a web browser and put a URL into the browser search bar and press enter, it will load some site content if the URL is correct. And what is happening underneath is that we actually requesting some server that is placed in World Wide Web, and requesting some content that is responding to particular this URL you have put onto your search bar. And we can actually look at this content what we are getting as a response. Major browsers, and you can access it by right-clicking and inspecting. And let's see what is the response we are getting. And if you look at it, it is somewhat readable, but it is in a format which is called HTML syntax. And this is the syntax that actually browser understand. That's why we are putting this content, what we see, into this HTML format and send it to the browser. And this is the best way how the browser understand or interpret the website into a browser interface. And with this knowledge, we can understand that the HTML has a significant role, and the response we are getting as the HTML will be the what I'll come as the result and become the UI what you see in your browser. So let's again switch to our slides. So today focus is rendering paradigm. So now we have seen that the HTML has a significant role on how we see the content in your browser. And this rendering paradigm is the process of that generation of that HTML. So you saw some HTML coming as the response as the result of your browser request. And that HTML content is generated at some point. And that process of generation of HTML is called as rendering. And this is the topic, and we are focusing on how they are generated and what are the mechanism and drawbacks and other things and frameworks we can use to generate this. So now that is clear, and I will be focusing mainly four different major rendering paradigms. One is called static site rendering, other one is called multi-page application rendering, or server-side rendering based on and SPA and the hybrid rendering. So these four major categories I will be focusing on. And so I will give a small task, like we can get a better idea whether what we learned today in this webinar is useful or not by doing this kind of exercise. So the exercise is very simple. You can access any website. For today question, I will be like accessing the New York Times and use this as the site and figure out under which category this website New York Times render happen, because this is a you can think it this as a somewhat advanced website, because this is not fully featured application. Also, it is not a simple website also. So it is in between, and we can, if you can identify which is the category this New York Times come under, and write it down, and later we can come in and look at how much we understood the rendering paradigms and if it affect. And during this webinar, if you have any question, please put it into our Q&A section. And at the end of all the webinar, I will be having Q&A section, and we will conduct, we will address those questions. Yeah. Now, coming back to the slides. We mentioned that there are four different categories we will be focusing on. The first one is static sites. And to start with static site, the static sites is the base format, base rendering paradigm, and that is used from the start of World Wide Web and introduction of websites. And as you can see, the way how we do static site is you simply have a HTML file, like actual HTML content you receive to the browser as a file itself and kept in a storage location. And when we request the website, we simply serve the file itself without any logical handling. And this is how the static websites work. And previously in our demo, we saw this site, and this is a simple static site, and the content you receive is a file actually available in some location, and I can show the file actually. So this is the file we have been serving as the website, and if you do some changes to this file and save it, we can actually observe that change once we reload our web URL. And that means this file directly getting served to the user, and all the changes you see in the file itself reflected on the website. This is the basic rendering pattern, and this is okay until up to when we do not need handle large amount of pages. Assume that you have 1,000 or 100 or 1,000 of pages, and you have to have a static site. At that time, the maintaining of that website become a cumbersome task, because if you have to do small change to the file, like style of navigation or something, you have to do that change each and every page. Let's say 100 pages, you have to do that in 100 files. And this is not a simple task, and there could be number of errors that can happen. So in order to avoid this, we have something that help us to generate the static site using some frameworks. And the frameworks which are available for doing that are called static site generators. And these are some of the static site generators available today. Gatsby and Jekyll are one of them based on React. Other one make use of Ruby on Rails. And Levante is somewhat different as it is supporting all the major JavaScript frameworks to generate the static site. And today in our demo, I will be using Servlet Kit. That is also it is not a single paradigm-based framework, but it helps us to also create a static site. So let us look at the actual static site that has been generated. And this is a simple static site I have created for the today webinar purpose. And as you can see, this site is having multiple pages. And if you load every this page, click on any link, it will actually load that page separately. And you can see the response here. And you can see that it is containing all the information what you see here as a HTML content. And you can verify it if you search for this particular text and search that one, you can find that text here. So this is the advantage we can have with the static site. That means what you have as the file will be reflecting on your browser. And I will show you the generated static site, like the template I have used to generate the static site, and this is the one what I have used. And as you can see, this for that population, I have used this area section, and it reflecting directly on your page, generated web page. And this is the pages HTML files generated. And as you can see, each and every pages has been generated using some this framework, and it is kept as a HTML file. And in future, you will see that this is not the most convenient approach, but this is the static site rendering pattern we have. Okay, so now you saw that how static site works and how we can make use of it. And this is the rough graph how we use static site generators to serve a static website. And next pattern is what we are looking at as called MPA. The reason why MPA has been introduced was that static sites implies that the content is static. That means when you have everyday changing data, underlying data, the content, the static site need to be generated every day. That is not a convenient approach, and that is okay if it is only changing at daily. But if it is changing hourly or minute by minute, that changes won't be reflecting, won't be able to reflected using static website. At that point, we need some rendering pattern that help us to can show the HTML or generate HTML at the front at or like online on time. So this is the rendering pattern solution we have, and how this work is, every time you request particular page, as you saw previously, when you request the country's first page, we actually get the HTML that is already built. But in case of MPS, we actually generate the HTML content on every time you request the page. So every time you put a URL and press enter, it will make the call to some server location, and at that server location, it will generate the HTML on the fly and send it as the HTML, the response. And we can see this in action, and we can use it to verify our concept. And yeah, this is the same website I have used for MP static site. And you can see this content is also similar or almost identical. But if you look at this behind the server, there's no actual data like the actual HTML files kept or generated pre-built. These contents are generated on the fly only. So we can verify this if you go to this particular file, and I will change this like count. And this is a data change, and it is reflecting directly in the website. This is the advantage we can get with the MPA. That means you change the underlying data, and the changes are directly reflected on the web application, website, and you render and request every time. And if you reload this page, sorry, reload this page, it is still available. And this is the one advantage we can have with MPA. And this is the basis what we have today for all the banking or news sites, e-commerce sites that use servers to build the pages. And when you have changes to the underlying pages, you can use the MPS to reflect that changes. And so that means every time you request, it will generate HTML. And that means this is a cost we have to have when we have NPA. That means we have to maintain a server that generates HTML. That is a cost, and it is an additional cost compared to what we had with static site. And you can see that when I'm doing user interaction, it is doing a full page reload. And this is also not a very convenient approach when you have when a user comes and use this application, he will have like a not too smooth user in the, experience. And these drawbacks mean that we can do some more improvement on the way how we render this HTML. And next method will actually resolve most of this issue where we need to have a full page reload and unconfigurable page transitions. And this can be avoided using X rendering paradigm. But before that, we will look at some of the frameworks that are available to build MPA web rendering pattern. So most of the current like more than 50% of a web application built before 2010s were built upon the this MPA rendering pattern, and these are some of the frameworks that help us to build them. One is Laravel and ASP.NET and Rails and Ruby on Rails and Django. Addition to that, there are WordPress and other CMS platforms that used to build this MPA10 web application. But most of the banking application still use this MPA because the MPA applications are somewhat more secure compared to whatever the next rendering pattern we will be discussing. And there are huge customer trust on MPA applications. So as I mentioned earlier, these are some of the areas where we use MPA application. And so the next application for rendering pattern format is SPS. This one specifically has been a huge game changer. If you remember, before 2010, as I mentioned, there were no the way we used more web applications are very hard, very fixed. And with the SPA introduction, if you remember, you get the feeling of using a normal web application as same as when you're using a desktop application or a mobile application, where you have a smooth transition and the feeling of using application doesn't feel like a website. You feel like it as an application. That's why we rename it not as a website, as an application. So, and it also has, let's see how it works, because previously we saw that the index HTML getting generated on the server or on some point and send it to the front end. But in case of SPS, that is completely avoided, and that has been avoided by introducing some small techniques where we generate the HTML after the initial HTML has been, initial page has been loaded. So so what happening is, after initial request goes, it will load some bare minimum amount of HTML and create the page. And after that page loaded, the JavaScript framework takes over and create the rest of the page. And you can see this in action in our next demo. So here you can see that this page is almost identical to previously this site. And if you look at the actual HTML content we are getting, is this much. And if you look at the HTML content we are getting for MPA site, it is somewhat different. And this means that initial HTML we are getting for server SPA sites is very bare minimum, but it at some point generate this full content, and that is happening using the underlying JavaScript framework that come into the browser and generate this content. But that would require, at some level, we need this information. So what happening is, when we go for the SPA, after the initial request, the rest of the pages are generated by the JavaScript framework that is used in the application. But the data is loaded via REST APIs or JSON AJAX call. And this would mean that we will be getting this data from some server and generating it on the web browser level. And this is called CSR also, client-side rendering pattern, and also SPA4 as a whole. And you can see the HTML data we are loading. If you go for this page, and it is we are not, if you look at the actual document doc, it is not the content we see here, and it is not loading every time also. So, but if you look at the data actual loading, it is loading every time when we click. And this data is transformed using JavaScript framework that is used and create this website. And if you have look at most of the web application nowadays use this approach, where we have initial HTML as bare minimum and the actual HTML generated by the browser itself. This would mean that browser takes over a huge task of generating HTML. And this is okay if we have a very high level like a device, like a high-end device. But if you have a low-end mobile phone or a low-end device, this would put a huge strain on the device itself, because we need some memory and resources to generate this HTML. Previously in server MPA approach, that task was hand over to the server, and the client didn't need to worry about that part. But with the SPA, that huge burden comes to the user side, and it also decrease the performance of the device when we are using it. But on the bright side, we can have a smooth user flow if you have a high info. So there are pros and cons for each and every rendering paradigms, but this is the drawback of SPA when compared to MPS. So if we normally when you are using a website or web application, most of the time the pages you will be loading, initial page is the most important one. The rest will be like very minimum usage. So if you go for a news application, in the news application, you will be most likely going for the first page, but the rest of the page won't be loaded all the time. So if you have a mechanism to read, like only load when you load the first page to get it quickly to our site browser, that would be a huge win. And that also in the next rendering panel, we will discuss how it is can be approached, and that is the next one we will be discussing. For now, let's see what are the frameworks we have available for building SPAs. So I mentioned this React and Servlet before also. So these are the main frameworks introduced during 2010 and 2016 that improve the way we build web application. With this only we get this huge advantage that come with SPAB rendering pattern. So I previously mentioned, what if we can generate the initial HTML in the server or before coming to the browser. And this hybrid rendering is the approach we are using to do that. So what happening in hybrid rendering is that it is combining both positive points of MPA and the positive point of SPA and create a solution. So the way it works, when client browser requests a page, backend there is a server that generate the initial HTML. This is this is available in MPS, but in the SPS we didn't had a server. We simply serve the simple HTML file. But with hybrid rendering, we actually generate the HTML similar to MPA and send it to the browser or client And with that initial HTML, we also send the JavaScript framework information. And in that JavaScript actually takes over the work at after the first call of the page. So, and after that initial page call, JavaScript takes over, and subsequent page loading and other things will be handled by JavaScript framework, and it is using the same SPA pattern there. And we can see this and in action so you can understand it better. For this, I will be using the same code base code I have used. So let me switch to the SPA pattern. So this is the hydration. This code I will be sharing with you later, and this actually the framework I'm using called Servlet Kit, which support all the format of rendering patterns. So that's why I didn't need to do much change when I'm switching to hybrid rendering pattern. So you can also use this kind of a framework to develop this kind of application. So I previously mentioned that the initial HTML in case of SPS was very minimal. But in case of hybrid rendering, now we actually generate the HTML, similar to how we had it in MPSI. And this is the innovative part in the hybrid rendering compared to what we had for SPA or single page application. But now if I click on any other page, it doesn't actually make any new HTML call. But if I look at the data, it is loading each and every data separately, and it generates it on the client side. That is the nice thing about hybrid rendering. So if you are a news page, someone goes to news blog site, and if you only want to see the initial page, then you do not have to worry about what kind of device you are using. You can have the same benefit you have when you are using normal SPS or static site. And that means you can use a low-end device or high-end device and still get the information you need. In addition to that, since we are generating HTML content, this also support the search engine optimization, which we wouldn't support in SPA, single page application. And that also a plus point compared to SPA when it comes to hybrid rendering. And this is the nice things about SPA and NPA. And previously I didn't forgot to mention when we are using SPS that you do not have to do full page reload. The content only needed to be changed will be getting generated on the fly based on the data we getting from the backend service. So this is how it is working for hybrid rendering. Now let's look at some of the frameworks which are available for implementing this. One is called Next.js. This is the one most famous right now. This one uses React-based as the underlying framework. Most of the application you can see now are moving to Next.js-based approach. And other one is Nuxt.js. If you have a Vue knowledge, this Vue.js form framework knowledge, this will be easier to handle. Other one is Servlet Kit, which I'm been using throughout this demo. And Astro and Quake, they also have different approaches, but at the end of the day, they use also hybrid rendering paradigm. So the question is this all? Or is this the end of rendering pattern we can observe? Actually, the answer is no. Even today, like we are like a number of people are developing new technical mechanical mechanisms to render HTML and make it much faster and convenient to users to have use as a web application. So I will show one example of it, and this actually might be one of the best innovation, because the only reason when we considered MPAs to SPAs was that MPA had a low user satisfaction when compared to experience, and that is one of the drawback. But if we can overcome that problem, that would mean we can actually can gain a huge win. And to demonstrate it, let's again go back to a country. Yeah. Let's say this one. And if you click this like, you have to do a full page reload. And this is not a very convenience. That is one of the reason we actually switch to the SPA pattern. And by changing a small code change, we can actually overcome this. And this code change, as you can see, the change is very minimal. And I'm actually using some library called HTMX. If you are more familiar with web development, you might have heard of this library. This HTMX library, we can actually see it in action, and let's look at how it works. And yeah, so let's look at the, let's go for a right. Now, previously when we click on this like button, it will actually do a full page reload. Now let's look at what happened. It is changing the actual content, but there's no actual full page reload. And you can see that there are some requests going on, and we are receiving some response. And this response is very minimal, right? Like previously, even in SPA or MPA, or hybrid rendering pattern, each and every one of them actually needed too much of information when we actually do small change. Like when I'm changing simply like count in MPS, I need to get the full, generate the full HTML file for the whole page. In case of SPS, we needed the full data related to that particular underlying data. So this is one of the inconvenience in both SPA and MPA, where we had previously, where we need full information in order to generate the page. But this HTMS and this rendering pattern actually reduce that load, and it only load the content we actually expect to change and see the changes directly in the browser without much data coming to the browser. This is also somewhat security-wise also somewhat better, compared to both compared to SPA, and that is also one of the innovation we can see. Other than this, there is also server-side streaming and ISR. There are some other small developed rendering patterns available, but they are not hugely famous in current modern web development. But they are still available, and depending on your use case, you might have to consult developers to check whether they are appropriate for your use case. So other than this, there are other technical things we can see in the web development patterns, like rendering patterns. One is called the WebAssembly implementation. So it is not directly rendering the HTML, but it helps us to improve the rendering and the underlying calculation actually. So if you have a heavy calculation heavy application, this WebAssembly actually helps us to generate HTML using calculation they do in underline. So what is a WebAssembly in a simple term is that it execute JavaScript based on the bytecode that are generated by C# or C++ kind of a programming language. If you have those kind of libraries, and we can directly use those libraries to generate or generate HTML using WebAssembly. And if you have, for example, there are few famous application we can see, observe. One of them is Figma. If you are familiar with web designing, you might have heard of Figma application. Other than we also have AutoCAD. If you are doing web house designing, you might have heard. And also Creative Cloud, most of the applications use WebAssembly underneath the application to do the calculations and other rendering, high level rendering. So these are all the rendering patterns which will be focused on. I wanted to focus on, and you can see some of the criteria we can use to identify which rendering pattern best suited for your project or next project you will be building. And we will be sharing this set of slides with you at the end of our webinar. And if you have any question, please ask away. And I will try to answer all the questions you have. Before starting, like going for the Q&A, I think we had a question actually. I previously asked to identify which rendering pattern we can put the New York Times website under. So if you have written down the answer, let's see if we can check whether it is correct or not. So this is the New York Times website, and we can see whether what kind of HTML it is loading. So this is the HTML it is loading. Let's see if any one of this content is available in this file. Yeah, so this HTML content is directly available in this site. This actually means that this website is at least this first initial page is directly generated in the server. So we can put this on either under a hybrid rendering or multi-page application, because we cannot put this on the static side because the content is daily changing. So it is either come under MP or hybrid rendering. And if we go for another page, actually, we can see that the page is generated. So that this means this site actually generate each and every page depending on the user's request. So we can put this one as MPA. So this is a multi-page application. So if you have categorized this one as multi-page application, you are correct. And yeah, so if you have any question, please ask away. Now is the time. Okay, it seems that there are no any question. If you are, so I will like to thank you, Alien Teams, for arranging this webinar and helping me conduct this one. So they help us, especially marketing team has helped me on conducting this. So I would like to thank them. In addition to that, I would also like to put some good words. If you are up for career change, and if you are looking for career change in career development in career in web development, you can find there's opportunities in our Alien career page. And in addition to that, if you have any question, please direct to us. So we will answer your questions and doubts. And I will be sharing all the demo pages and the demo code and the slides after the meeting, this webinar, and you can get them if you need. Yeah. Thank you for your time. We'll see you.